callers? It's this week's episode of the Fantasy Football Fumble. It's your boy Manny James Games over here with Joe the Birdman. Joe, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing very well, Manny. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm sad I gave you your first win this week, man. I wanted to keep you at that 0 win over here, but
Hey,
unfortunately the fantasy gods weren't smiling down on me this week, and they
still
were
have
on you. You ended up getting a chain.
you still have a better record than I do. I think both of our teams actually look great, and I really appreciate you letting me win this week because I needed it bad.
Actually, I don't know about my team looking good, man. I'm actually pretty worried about that league. I feel like my team's gonna fall apart, man. It's not looking good. But not to worry here. The other two teams are looking pretty strong. But we got some pretty good content for you guys coming out here this week. Of course, we want to start off this week with some of your latest news and updates here. As you know, last week we had some pretty interesting updates. Last week there was a star player that went out. Mike Williams tore his ACL. Says that means Joshua Palmer steps into the role, second wide receiver for the Chargers, and then Quentin Johnston, wide receiver rookie here, steps in as the slot. And then also they had actually passed a lot to Donald Parham as well. So that just tells you that Chargers are just going to continue to be a spread offense. You're not going to really know who's going to be the
Absolutely.
guy. But what do you think about that, Joe? Who do you think is going to be the guy in that offense?
I agree that Justin Herbert's been looking really good. He spreads the ball around quite a bit. And I know a lot of people are really high on, receivers that aren't Keenan Allen just because of the circumstances. I'm not as high on either of them. Keenan Allen's the only one that I would start with confidence every week. The other guys, the ball is going to be spread around quite a bit. During preseason, Palmer was the one playing all the snaps with the veteran wide receivers. He was in there first. I think he's still going to get the majority of the carries, the majority of the targets with Mike Williams being out. So even though, there's a lot of buzz around the rookie, Justin, what's his last name?
You talking about the rookie? Oh no, you're talking about Quentin Johnston,
Quentin.
the rookie.
Quentin
Mhm.
Johnston, yes. There's a lot of buzz around him, but I think Josh Palmer is going to be the one that kind of takes over takes the bulk of the targets that Mike Williams was getting.
He did get 96 targets last year, 800 yards as a rookie. So he's already proven to step in and be a stud.
Yeah.
So he's looking good. But another big fantasy football news this week: Alvin Kamara comes back from suspension as well. So just in time to settle that mess in the New Orleans backfield. I know last week you were big on Kendre Miller. He obviously didn't produce. Tony Jones, Taysom Hill. That was a big
Yeah.
cluster
I,
screw up back
I
there.
was big on Taysom Hill. I was just saying it'll be interesting to see what Kendre Miller does. I wasn't really high on anyone except Taysom Hill, and they only actually had 21 carries between the three of them, and Taysom got 4. And when you're up 17-0, it's hard for me to explain why you're not running the ball more. But they fell apart the second half, and that was tough to watch for me.
Yeah, what's going on over there in New Orleans? Even when they were when they had Jamal Williams healthy, they weren't even running the ball
I
week
know.
one. That team is just who's calling the plays there? That team is just scaring me a little bit. I have one share of Alvin Kamara in one league, and I almost feel like I need to get rid of him now because he's that play calling scaring me a little bit.
I was thinking the exact same thing today because I have Kamara in 2 leagues, and we saw how good Jamal Williams can be last year. I mean, the guy had like 17 touchdowns or something ridiculous like that. And
19, yeah.
I really thought, oh, was it 19? Oh my goodness. I really thought he was just going to pick up where he left off. That's why I literally drafted him in every single league. And now he's on IR. But before that even happened, I agree with you. I don't know what was going on. They weren't utilizing him properly. And every game was bad. So, yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing over there, but it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better anytime soon because, now we got Jameis Winston as the lead quarterback, and, he's got his ups and downs. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's true. Jameis Winston's in there now. Did they have any injury updates on Derek Carr? What kind of injury he had? I know they were very hush hush about that, and they were going to do an MRI. It was a shoulder injury, and they didn't really give you. They were very secretive about the results of it. It seems.
Yeah, I haven't heard any updates recently. Last I heard, it's going to be a couple weeks, but that could easily turn into 3 or 4. We'll see. But I think they said he was week to week, but I didn't get any specifics either. I also haven't checked in a few hours, so that may have changed.
Yeah, that's an immediate downgrade to most New Orleans receivers, except for one. That means except for Chris Olave, I would take an immediate downgrade. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed immediately took a downgrade on targets.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally, Jameis Winston has only been sustainable for like one receiver, and it's either going to be Michael Thomas or Olave, and they both had solid games last week. So, but the problem is he has a tendency to hyper focus on receivers and force the ball. And that's why he traditionally has a lot of turnovers. So I think that defenses are going to key in on that. And you're going to see some good games for them and some frustrating games. So I think if you have those receivers and it's a long-term injury, you need to sell high on those receivers while you still got an opportunity to do so.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens with Kamara. Someone actually offered me Josh Jacobs for Kamara, and I turned it down. I know.
Oh my God.
Well,
bro,
it wasn't just Josh
reach
Jacobs.
Out to me for this.
It wasn't just Josh Jacobs. It was I can't remember. It was one of my receivers, and
they wanted more on top of it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But the bulk of it was Kamara for Josh Jacobs. And I'm just not sure about Josh Jacobs. I feel like I know he's, last year the volume was why he was obviously playing out of his mind, but the volume he got was obscene. And so far in the first 3 games, he's had like 10 points in each one. He's had like 9 or 10 points in every game. And that's just, if it was just 2 games, you could say, all right, we'll see what happens in week 3. But 3 is a pattern. So I'm not sure about Josh Jacobs. I was not high on him last year, and he shocked me. I feel like he shocked everybody. But he was never really a standout running back that he's lumped together with in the draft this year, I don't think. So I don't know about him the rest of the season, and I'm kind of excited to just plug in Kamara and see what he can do.
Well, here's my perspective on Josh Jacobs. So he missed all of training camp. He didn't practice all of training camp. So he's not in football shape. Now he's trying to get out there and trying to run with these guys that have been running all off season. He's going to be out of shape. And Josh McDaniels, I mean, if you look at his offense, traditionally the New England offense has loved its running backs. And like nobody on that offense can even run the type of role that Josh Jacobs can. Zamir White, everybody behind him, doesn't have the capability or the talent to run his role. So that's why I think, as the season progresses, Josh Jacobs is going to be an absolute beast. He's going to get back to the normal workload and the production. So I think if you have the opportunity to buy on him now, do so. There's certain players right now that you kind of got flashes of them. Like, for example, I loved the fact that I was able to sell high on Adam Thielen in 2 of my leagues this last game. So he had a 32-point game. And people were like, Adam Thielen is back. People realize this guy is 32 years old. I was able to trade him in one league for James Cook for a guy that needed the running back in the Contenders League.
Good
and
job.
Then the other league, I was able to trade him for Brian Robinson. And I love the fact that Andy Dalton stepped in. People don't realize that Andy Dalton loves his veteran receivers because they know they're where they're supposed to be at the same time.
Right.
But they don't realize Bryce Young was out with a concussion. He's going to be right back. And Bryce Young loves his big targets. He's going to be going back to, whoever he's going to when he's not going to be throwing through Adam Thielen like he was looking for, these other guys, Jonathan Mingo and, the other wide receiver, Terrence Marshall, right? And the tight end, Hayden Hurst. So he had a 32-point game, and I was able to trade for these 2 guys. I was able to sell high on them for these two running backs that I love long term.
I know
People
you've been high on both of those running backs, and here's the thing: the running back position is extra scarce right now. It's scarce every year, but my God, I can't believe you got both of them. That's awesome.
Bro, people, you gotta take advantage. There is panic right now. People, if you can buy low on Josh Jacobs, buy low on Derrick Henry. People are panic on Derrick Henry right now.
You know, I love Derrick Henry. I'm not getting rid of him.
Bro, the workload last week was 56% to Tyjae Spears, and the rest of the workload went to Derrick Henry. So some people are smart; they're not trading him, but some people are literally panicking and trading Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to go after him, these are players that people are like, "Oh my God, I need to turn my fantasy season around." Take advantage of the panic and the mayhem and make trades and get rid of these guys, right?
That's
like
right.
your Kyron Williams, trade him away, sell high. That's why people right now are trying to trade Raheem Mostert, right? He's the number one fantasy running back right now. Trade the shit out of this guy. He is not going to be number one for much longer. Will he be a top 20? Absolutely he will. But number one, hell no. If you get Raheem Mostert for Derrick Henry, trade him right now. Do so. That's why you saw a guy in our league who wants Raheem Mostert. No takers. You know why? Because those guys are freaking sharks. They know better. Yeah. It's not gonna. It's not gonna work.
Everyone was quiet. No one responded to that.
No, because we know what the hell we're doing in there. That's why. So,
and like you said, they're going to be selling high. So they're going to be asking for a lot more than you're going to want to give right now. And that's a good call on Henry, though. See, I have Derrick Henry in 2 leagues, but maybe I should get him in 3. Because there's another league where I'm kind of struggling right now at running back because Barkley's out. I don't know what to do. Actually, that's your league. I'm in a bad spot right now at running back. Maybe I'll try to go get Derrick Henry.
Bro, you could try. I mean, I made an attempt, man. He shot down my offer, but I'm trying to trade Devontae Adams, man. I'm really out there trying to make moves, brother. Remember, I traded Derrick Henry last year. When you got to make a move, brother, if you gotta trade a superstar to get 2 stars, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta do what you gotta do to keep your fantasy team afloat. And you can ask Joe, I had to trade Derrick Henry when my team was looking dim, and I made a playoff push. I think I finished 3rd in that league. I was 1.01 points away from playing for the championship. I lost by 0.01 points and to the 2nd place guy. And, and that's because I made moves. Sometimes you got to do it when your team is hurting. That's just how it is.
That's right. And the thing is, I can't stress that enough. Don't worry about what other people think. If you need somebody on your team, you need somebody on your team. So, I told you about the trade I did where, I traded 2 for 1 to get Godwin because, I just needed an extra flex player because this is a 2 flex league. You got to do what you got to do to fill that spot. So
I love Godwin this year. Buy low on him. He's a great pickup.
And this is going to be a game where, this weekend specifically, usually Mike Evans gets shut down. So I wanted to make that trade happen before I knew that he was going to be getting a lot of the throws coming to him instead of Mike Evans.
Well, he doesn't necessarily get shut down. He gets ejected from the game because Marshawn Lattimore and him always fight. They're always getting into a fight.
It's going to be exciting.
Marshawn will push him and walk away. And then Mike Evans, he'll come in, grab him by his balls and, body slam him or something. Dude,
you remember
crazy
when he
shit.
he just came streaming across and it was like, boom.
Yeah, it's always so extreme. Mike Evans is the most aggro.
He's a beast, man. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, don't mess with Mike Evans, guys.
That's right.
I won't even say nothing bad about him. He's the ultimate competitor. Let's just say that.
That's right.
All right, but let's go ahead and get the show started. Joe, let's start off with today's hot calls, man. You gotta lead us off over here, Joe. What's gonna be your hot matchup of the week over here, my guy?
All right, so I think one that's going to be a good back and forth, and I believe the favorite in this game is the Lions, but I could be wrong. It's a really close spread, but the Lions versus the Packers. I think that's going to be a good back and forth game, especially if we got Aaron Jones back. and I do believe he's going to be playing. So that should be a good game.
I hope
Jordan
so.
Love has been on fire. Jared Goff has been on fire. You've got Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then on the other side, you've got Jaden Reed's been looking pretty good. Is Watson coming back this week? I'm not even sure. But if he's not back, you still got Romeo Dobbs, who's looked awesome. And I believe that Aaron Jones will be back too. So if you've got weapons on both sides and, this is a divisional game, these teams are going to be playing hard. And I believe the spread is really close. It's like 1 or 2 points. I just can't remember who the favorite is. I'm going just on what I think it should be. I think the Lions are the favorite, but it's going to be a close game. And I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, I definitely love this matchup too. It's a great matchup. You're right; those hamstrings, because Aaron Jones and C.J. Watson have both been out for hamstrings. C.J.'s missed 3 games. Aaron Jones missed 2. And I've had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and let me tell you, I need Aaron Jones back because A.J. has not done anything in fantasy at all. I need Aaron Jones. He's in that league that I'm struggling in. So
and you have David
definitely
Montgomery
need
on a
him
couple
back.
leagues too, right?
I do. He's been out for 2 games as well. But yeah, I will tell you, I was reading an injury report, and actually Detroit, their star left tackle, I can't remember his name, the Hawaiian kid, the Panay, Pinelli. He's actually out, and their right guard and their right tackle's out, or their right guard and right tackle's out. So they actually have 3 offensive linemen out for the Detroit Lions. Yeah, so they're gonna actually be out. Them obviously, Amon-Ra's playing with the plate in his foot, so he's gonna be coming in. So they have some injuries there.
Man, I did not know that.
Yeah, so they're gonna be playing -3 linemen or 2. So actually no, only out 2 linemen, a right guard and the left tackle Panay. So their star left tackle is going to be out. So it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So Green Bay is going to get some pressure in there. But I think Detroit has to throw the ball to stay in there. Montgomery is questionable to play. I don't think he's going to play. Okay. It is a thigh injury. He could be in there. But, I mean, I do need a Jahmyr Gibbs, good game out of there. I got both of them, and honestly, I don't need both of them in Montgomery in my other games. Yeah, I could use a solid start. Like, I could use a solid workload in that league. Like, if I could get a full workload from Jahmyr Gibbs and Aaron Jones, I'm in a great place. But overall, that could definitely be a great game for us. And then as far as on the Packers side, C.J. Watson has missed a whole year, but those hamstrings are tricky. I think he also missed last year, started off the season the same way.
Yeah, he did.
He missed a couple games, and then he kind of exploded on the scene after that. So he could do the same thing this year as well. But yeah, it could be a great high-scoring game. As far as my hot matchup, first one I got the Rams-Colts. Obviously, both teams have been playing good defense. Obviously, they've been playing tough defense here, especially the Colts. So I think they're like second in the league for like certain categories like takeaways and like sacks and stuff like that. But I think Rams have been a top 5 offense this year as far as like, they've been surprising everybody, not saying they're playing the best defenses, but they did good against the Bengals. They did good against, some pretty good teams. The Niners, they're not scoring against terrible teams. Like Niners are a top 5 defense.
Oh, absolutely.
Bengals are a top 10 defense. So they've been scoring against some really formidable opponents. So I could see them be high scoring against the Colts. Colts also, as far as their side of the ball, there's going to be Zach Moss. He had a great game last week. Shane Steichen was the Eagles offensive coordinator. He gets Anthony Richardson back. He hasn't cleared concussion protocol all the way, but, he's only questionable. And I think he's on step 4 or 5 of concussion protocol.
Yeah, he was practicing
he should be
today,
coming back.
So
yeah, he was practicing. Yeah, so, I mean, that Michael Pittman, you have a lot of weapons. Josh Downs, the rookie. Like, they have a lot of really good weapons on both sides of the ball. So I could see this being a really high scoring affair, for both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm really looking forward to this. And I totally agree with the Rams. They're looking great. They just look like a good football team. And they against San Fran played so much better than anyone expected. I'm thinking, all right, Kyron Williams is going to get shut down. Nope, man. It was impressive all around. Tutu and Puka looking awesome. Cup's going to come back. That team could be legit. And so far, they're looking pretty good. So my second hot matchup is the Bills versus the Dolphins. And I think this is pretty obvious. I mean, we witnessed history when the Dolphins put up 70 points against Denver last week. I remember I was texting my buddies like, they scored 63 points, and my buddy sends me a text right back, 70. I'm like, yep, I just saw it. I mean, it's happening that fast. But, right now, Tua's looking awesome. Tyreek is looking awesome. And then, of course, Mostert and Devin A-Chain, they look awesome too. So you're talking about a high-powered offense and a high-powered offense going against each other. Diggs has looked legit. Of course, Josh Allen's legit. He bounced back like everyone expected. And then you got James Cook, who's looking rock solid, way better than I expected. I just traded and got him, which I think was a bold move. I had to trade Pickens to get him, but I needed a running back. That dude needed a receiver. So that was 2 weeks ago, and I'm really happy I did it now because I'm in a desperate situation at running back, and boop, just plug in James Cook. So he's looked great, getting 20-plus touches every game. And I just think with both of those offenses going back and forth, even though both of their defenses are okay, I think they're just going to be scoring too much for that to be boring in any way.
Oh yeah. That's definitely. I mean, that has the highest point projected total of the week. I mean, for Vegas, right? So
Okay.
it's projected to be the highest scoring for sure. Bills are potent offense. Dolphins obviously 70 points is nothing to scoff at. And then obviously Buffalo's most susceptible to be attacked on the ground as well. They're like 15th against the run. That's like their 15th ranked rush defense. So and they really get hurt on those corners, right? Because their cornerbacks obviously are not the greatest tackling corners. So when you hit that edge, you got three guys running a 4-2. Raheem Mostert, or 4-3s. Raheem Mostert, Devin A-Chain running 4-3s, running up that edge. And then obviously Tyreek Hill running the edge. So, I mean, it's hard to catch him. And Jalen Waddle might be back from the concussion. That's another 4-3.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he's been out the last 2 games with a concussion. So they definitely have a lot of, or actually 1 game with a concussion, but he missed half of the other game. So
Right.
they definitely have a lot of weapons. And obviously on the Buffalo side, I do have a couple shares of some Bills. I have, Josh Allen and James Cook myself. So I definitely understand that. And it actually happens to be in the same league. So I'm definitely a fan of that game. That was actually one of my favorite games as well. So I'm excited to see how that looks. I have players on both sides. I'm actually trying to make a move for a Miami player right now, see if I can pull that one off.
Oh, really?
I'll let you know what's in the works after it happens, right? I'm not trying to give that away too early. But, I always got something cooking in the back over here, man.
Oh, I know.
But
that's one thing I love about you is you make a lot of moves, you make a lot of trades, and as you know, I do too. I'm very active in every league, and you gotta be. It makes it fun too, but you really do have to be. You just sit with the team you drafted. It's usually not gonna work out. You've got to make some moves.
Yes, sir. And I always have a plan. I always have a trade, or I'll package certain players because I already have a player I like on the free agency, and I'm just gonna be like, all right, I'll trade these players, pick this one up, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I can't pick them up because I'm at my limit. So you always got to be 2 steps ahead, people. That's the whole plan. I'm at my limit. I have 7. Let's say I have 7 running backs or 3 tight ends, and I'm gonna package 2 tight ends because I'm gonna pick up a second one. Or I have 2 quarterbacks, and I'm gonna package one up because I'm going to pick up another one that I like that nobody's touching. So that allows me to make moves that I normally wouldn't have made because there's depth available that people are not taking advantage of.
That's
because
right.
every league is different, you're able to see different ripples and moves that other people won't see because you have different people in every league. And that's why I don't typically like to do leagues with the same people, multiple leagues, because people get to see your moves and they get to copy your moves, right? Because Joe's in 2 of my leagues, so if he
I
sees
copy
me
some of
doing
your
something,
moves.
so he knows what I'm thinking. So I can't make the same moves multiple times without Joe catching on.
Yeah, you'll
You know,
see. There's a
so
few guys like you'll see sometimes. If I see James
James,
grab someone, sometimes I'll go over to that other league, yoink, grab him
yeah,
too. I'm
there's
like, what does he know?
yeah,
James is the one that got me on Elijah Moore. You know,
yeah,
we were talking about him during preseason, and I think he could have a breakout year. So yeah, I'm always
yeah.
watching what you and James are
He
doing.
looks good. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
there's people that do their due diligence. You know, there's always people that know what they're doing, and that's guys that when you talk to, they may have a different perspective than you or angle that you didn't think of that could
right.
open up your eyes, and that's why it's good to listen to other people or have conversations, right?
Yeah, and bounce trades off your friends, that aren't in that league. See what they think about that offer. If you're just, being emotional or if you're making a good move.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now for my next hot matchup, I got a really great one. I can't believe you didn't think of this one, Joe, but it's going to be all offense, high octane. This is going to be the highest scoring game of the week, and it ain't even going to be close. It's going to be the Raiders versus the Chargers, man. Yeah, this is going to be high scoring. Jimmy G might be out with a concussion, and that's kind of like he's questionable coming in. So it's going to be that rookie Aiden O'Connell, who apparently he's like a 5th rounder, and apparently he's pretty solid in college. But I think anybody throwing the ball to obviously Devontae Adams is going to throw touchdowns, right? And obviously Jacoby Myers has been solid. That man's averaging like 22 points a game right now. He's
Yeah,
only played
he's
2
been
games, but
awesome, man.
he's been on it, brother. And then obviously you could have a bounce back, a breakout game for Josh Jacobs. We were talking about him earlier. He could be solid. That's on that side. On the other side, of course, you have Justin Herbert, right? Like he just lost Mike Williams, but you just saw freaking Keenan Allen go for 200 yards. Like
Man,
amazing. That
that was
man just went
insane.
for like a ridiculous game, 18 receptions, right? Like 18 out of
Yep.
20, 200 yards. Like he had 2 touchdowns and
And
he
threw a
passed for a
touchdown
touchdown, like
himself. Yeah.
or yeah, sorry, he passed for one and he caught one or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
so he had a ridiculous game. And then of course, like Joshua Palmer had like 4 for 5 on like 86 yards or something like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was just under 100. So and then we get to see who comes out. I think Parham had 2 touchdowns. So like they were spreading the ball around, and then this is the game that you probably see Eckler coming back because he's
You
been
think he's coming back?
questionable. Yeah, he's been questionable all week. I think he had a limited practice, and the last 2 games have just been miserable with Joshua Kelly. Like Joshua Kelly has just not been what he looked like in training camp or in
No.
preseason. They
In
just
that
and
first
and the
game when Eckler was there, he had almost 100 yards.
yeah, he did. He looked great as a
I know.
backup.
It's
But as a starter,
hard.
like when people game plan for him, not the same. What I don't understand, they drafted Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M, and Isaiah Spiller, like high school and college high school was like a 4-star recruit going into college and at Texas A&M, and he looks phenomenal at Texas A&M, and he just like he got drafted by the Chargers and just completely fell off the face of the
I
earth. Like
know. I
he,
know.
I don't know what happened, but besides the point. I just think they have a lot of weapons there. If Eckler comes back, obviously that looks great. But regardless, they're gonna have to pass the ball like crazy. If Eckler's not there, they have no choice but to pass. So
Right.
they're gonna have to find a way to
Yeah,
score,
that's
and then
clear
maybe
now.
Quentin Johnson comes back. Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
it has to go through the air.
Yeah, they got to go through the air. They can't rely on Josh Kelly if he's the starter. But if Eckler's back, yeah, that only adds to everything else that you just put out there. Welcome back, ballers. Manny, who's your cold call of the week?
Cold call of the week. So, cold call of the week game that I'm going to be avoiding at all costs. So that's going to be the Chiefs versus the Jets game. So I know people are like, Chiefs, why would you avoid the Chiefs? So I'm going to avoid any Chiefs not named Mahomes or Kelsey. So that's basically my cold call. So you're going to avoid every single person from the Jets because it seems like the Jets head coach Robert Saleh has a case of denial. So he refuses to say that there's a problem. He's an addict. He's a Zach Wilson addict. He refuses to acknowledge that he has a he has an addiction to not acknowledging Zach Wilson's a complete disaster, that he should have never drafted him, because they would admit that that was a failure. I mean, you look at San Francisco, and Kyle Shanahan admitted that Trey Lance was a disaster.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we screwed up, but we got Brock Purdy. Hey, we gave up 2 first-round picks, but we have our future. Let's move on, right? And then and Robert Saleh could have done that. He had Mike White. He could have gave Mike White that opportunity. And guess what? You know what he did? He let Mike White walk. He could have paid him, but he let him walk to Miami. And now look at him. He's stuck with Zach Wilson in the same exact situation. Yes, he made a move for Rodgers, but you could have made that move for Rodgers and keep Mike White. You could have paid him because you had the money on the books. Instead, you let him walk, and now look at it. So anyways, I know I got completely off the rails here, but avoid anybody on the Jets. Breece Hall had 3 points last week. Dalvin Cook had like 5 points. And then anybody, Garrett Wilson, under single digits, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, of course they have 40 points, but Jerick McKinnon had double-digit points. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco had double-digit points, but so did Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Who knows if, this week the Jets just play tough defense and Kansas City just runs out the clock the whole time. I don't think they're going to beat up on them like, Kansas City did on the Bears last week. I don't think the Jets are that bad on defense. So I just think it's going to be a slow, ugly game. Kansas City is probably going to win it 21-24-3. But I just think it's going to be a dominant, slow game. And if you're not Kelsey getting 3 touchdowns from Mahomes, you're just going to be, wasting your time in that game.
Yeah, and you're right with the Jets D is pretty good, especially with, stuff in the run against average running backs. And I feel like that's what most of the Chiefs running backs are. They're just average. You never feel good about playing any of them. So that's a good call. That could be a slow grind. And, of course, you playing Mahomes. Of course, you're playing Kelsey every single week without question. But outside of that, I wouldn't even feel good playing Garrett Wilson after even after week 2, when he had that lucky touchdown. I mean, not lucky, but that was the entire – 2 receptions, and one of them was like 70 yards. And then last week, that looked bad, and I don't think there's any real good solution aside from a new quarterback, and that's not going to happen at least for a few weeks. Now, let me tell you about –
what's your cold call?
My cold call is the Bucs versus the Saints. I think you just got 2 strong defensive units, both in the top 10 for fantasy right now. And, going into the season, going into every season, both of them are always strong on defense. And the Saints have a bunch of issues going on with what we were talking about earlier with their offense. Jameis Winston is good for a few turnovers, no doubt. So that might be, the Bucs getting some points on defense, but if you're talking about a defense, start the Bucs and start the Saints. They're probably good plays this week. But as far as the offense, Olave, sure. Kamara, I don't even know. I might give it a week before I put in Kamara. And on the other side, the Bucs, we've seen what Mike Evans does when he plays the Saints. He doesn't perform the same. Maybe this year, he has been an absolute freak this year. Maybe this is the year when he says, all right, it's time for me to shut you down. And I'm going to get 2 touchdowns today. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. But historically speaking, it's not a good game for Mike Evans. Godwin, he might be an okay play where you get, 12 to 15 points. That would be great. But generally speaking, I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be a defensive battle. You got too many issues with the Saints offense, and I'm not really confident in anyone on the Bucs just this week because of the situation with Mike Evans. I'm still going to play him, obviously. I'm still going to play Godwin at the flex spot. But, Rachaad White, he could get shut down this week. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And Kamara could get shut down, or he could just get like 10 carries. We don't know. Jameis Winston, it's going to be unpredictable with him at quarterback. I just want to stay away from this game for the most part.
Yeah, now I definitely hear you on that. That could definitely be a grind fest. It's gonna be a frustrating game. Like I was saying, I'm worried about any one of those receivers for the Saints, and the Bucks seem like they're gonna have some frustration carried over from the Eagles game, and it is a bitter rivalry game, so it's gonna be slow. I do think one positive bright spot. I do have Kamara in one league. I do think that the Saints will probably do one thing okay. They will get some touches to Kamara, and I also have no choice in that league. I'm gonna play Kamara in that league because I'm
I'm
like, you
playing.
know what? If anything they're gonna do right. They're like, am I gonna trust Jameis Winston to throw this ball at the goal line, or I'm gonna hand it to Kamara? And I think
Right.
the obvious is gonna be like, or if they're gonna be like, am I gonna give this to Kamara or I'm gonna give it to Taysom Hill? I think that Kamara might have the better chance in their eyes of converted it because Taysom Hill's already got a couple goal line carries and didn't convert.
Yeah, he
I
got
think
stuffed on too.
statistically speaking, the coaching staff might look at it higher probability. That's just me being a optimist, I guess.
Well, I do
But
have to
that's just
play Kamara in 2 leagues as well because I have no other option. And I forgot about him in 1 league. I was like, oh yes, nice. And I get to plug him in. That's exciting. I'm just not sure how he's going to be this week. Um,
plus
but
the Eagles did gash them for 100, almost 170 yards this past week. I know we have a great O line, but the Saints do as well. They have a pretty solid, rock solid O line. So I can see the Saints kind of replicating that O line or that game plan, kind of going run heavy instead of pass heavy because they have Winston, and probably
yeah,
surprising the Buccaneers a little bit.
yeah, we'll see. Saints offensive line looked pretty bad last week, but generally speaking, they do have a good offensive line too. So we'll see. Well, at least in the second half they fell apart. But yeah, that we'll see what happens. But I feel like even if there's a few players that stand out um, on either
Oh
side of
yeah,
that
that's it.
game, it's probably going to be low scoring. And
Oh yeah, that's one. That's it. Kamara, that's it. Don't
yeah,
touch anybody else. Stay away
Kamara's
from
probably.
everybody else.
And I mean, that's the thing with Mike Evans. It's really hard not to play him. So I don't know who you would play over
Oh
Mike
yeah.
Evans. So you're probably playing him too. Most people that got
Yeah.
Godwin will probably play him. But who knows? Wide receivers deep. So you might be able to put in someone over Godwin.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, if you got no choice, you don't have any choice, right? I think I got to the point last week where I played Matt Collins. That's how desperate I was, and he got me 3 whole points. So,
Three.
so
Hey man, Derrick
3
Henry only
points.
got 2. So
Oh man, shit. I at least I don't feel so bad.
yeah.
All right, boys and girls, it's your favorite time. It's time for the shit call of the week. Pull out your meat pies and get ready. It's time.
Oh man, it was
All
a rough
right.
one. It was a rough one for me because I was so high on him, man. I was so high on him. I must start. Taysom Hill.
All right. What Taysom Hill? There you
You know,
go, Joe. Go ahead.
I was so high on Taysom Hill, and I felt like the recipe was there. You're down Kamara and Jamal. What are you going to do? You're going to give the ball to Taysom Hill, right? If your top 2 running backs are out, and when Jamal Williams went out, we saw how good Taysom Hill could perform. 9 carries, 75 yards, almost scored a touchdown. With Kendre Miller and Tony Jones Jr. as the only 2 other options, I thought they were going to give probably maybe even double-digit carries to Taysom Hill, give him something on the goal line to get him into the double digits for fantasy points. I was sure of it. The recipe was there. And I don't understand when you're up 17-0 at halftime, how collectively the 3 of them only had 21 touches. It doesn't make sense to me. And it was really hard for me to watch. And I was just so high on Taysom. We had, we're just starting out. We don't have a lot of listeners. And Randy, I'm sorry. I was so high on Taysom Hill. I got tunnel vision. And I told you to start him over Laporta, who was unbelievable last week. Scored
Brandy, I told you Laporta.
Listen to Manny next
start
time.
Laporta.
Manny said Laporta. Manny shook his head and said, start Laporta. Randy, please keep watching. Just listen to Manny.
Just listen to one of us. So whoever you listen to the one time, listen to the other one the next time, and then flip it every time.
And here's the thing. I love Laporta too. I was just that high on Taysom Hill. I couldn't believe they didn't involve him more in the game. And to see them go from 17-0 to losing the game by 1 point, and the whole time you're just wondering what the hell is going on. And I still don't know. But, offensive line kind of fell apart. We were just talking about how they're a good line. They fell apart. And 20 touches, 20 carries between 3 running backs when you're up 17-0. I can't make sense of that.
Unacceptable.
So who was your shit call, Manny?
Well, I'm gonna talk about one first, and then you gotta remind me if I made anything worse than that. But my shit call was saying that the hot matchup of the week was gonna be the Falcons versus the Lions. So that game ended up being a 6-20 shit show last week. I mean, just completely abysmal. Like, a lack of total offense. It was just, I started off looking good. Like, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a high scoring game. And it just kind of fell off. Like, Amon-Ra looked great. The Lions just couldn't execute. Like, they couldn't get enough touches to Jahmyr Gibbs. They did convert a couple touchdowns, but then, 3 field goals. It just ended up being very disappointing. And obviously, Falcons had 2 field goals. They couldn't convert anything else. They had a couple splash plays and it just fell off. But was there any other calls that you think I made worse than that?
No. I mean, I know you were expecting that game to be a lot more high scoring.
Hot matchup, right? Yeah, I looked at it. I was looking at my notes. I was like, I was trying to find something. I was pretty much on par with all my individual matchups, like individual players. I looked at that. I was like, obviously I looked at my hot calls. I was like, this is probably my worst call I made last week. Was thinking this was going to be a good start. Running backs would be good. I thought Matt Collins, obviously, I said was going to be good. And this, but maybe that was just my individual bias, right? And because of that, I had the opportunity to go and pick up a player, right? And I looked down the list and I overlooked Devin Achane, number 2 on the waiver wire priority as a start for Miami. And he was somebody that was on my radar earlier that week. And I was just looking at it like, oh, Miami just always has somebody playing different for that damn team.
Right.
And I was like, who's somebody that would start, somebody that I could play this week? And I think my shit call of the week was looking at freaking Devin Achane. And I was just kicking after he played, bro. I was just kicking my own ass for the next 5 minutes into that Miami game. I was kicking my ass. Like, I looked at Devin Achane. And I looked at him and I said, nah, he's not going to do anything. That was my shit call, as a matter of fact. And I was just sulking the whole entire day. And I woke up feeling like garbage the next day.
I mean, he's a monster, but I doubt he's going to do that again this season. Maybe not ever, so don't beat yourself up.
I had him on my team earlier. I had him in my team earlier, bro. I hate him. That pisses me off. Because I give up on.
I know, I've been there too many times.
I had Christian Watson on my teams last year. I dropped him around week number 3, and guess what he did week number 4. You know what I mean? Like
I drafted him super late, and I drafted him super late, and then I dropped him too.
Yeah, and then when I give up on a player early, I'm like, damn it, you need to have more patience.
Right,
it's a good lesson. You need to have more patience. So. And then Devin Achane, I had him in all my leagues, and then I dropped him. Like, I drafted him in one, I picked him up in another, and I decided, Miami just dropped this guy behind Salvador Ahmed when he was somebody that was being drafted preseason in the 12th round. And I was like, he has potential. Miami will rise him up to the depth chart. And sure enough, I just let my stupid, the media leak into my head and affect my thought process. And that's where you start screwing up people, is when you let this stupid mainstream media leak in there and affect your ability to process information. And that's where you start making mistakes.
Yeah, you can't get too excited, and you can't listen to the consensus and expect it to be right all the time, because they're mostly just comparing notes. Make your own notes, watch the game, see how they look, how they actually look playing the game. I think that goes a long way. Sometimes on paper, they don't have the best game, but if you watch it, you're like, hey, they look pretty good out there. So,
yeah, it's like if you look at my preseason rankings for like wide receivers, I have like I have all my handcuff wide receivers. I have like Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I have them as the only two Texans receivers you should draft. And sure enough, only two Texans receivers you should draft: Nico Collins,
yeah.
Tank Dell. I have a certain players that you should look at, stuff like that, right? Like only two
Oh,
wide
yeah.
receivers from Miami, like different rankings, because all these other fantasy analysts have like 300 players you should draft, and it's like you don't need that many. If you
I
run a
know.
12-man league, you shouldn't
These
go
lists,
past 205 players.
yeah, these lists sometimes get exhausting. I can't watch a 30-minute YouTube video on the top 50 running backs. I don't have time for that,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's that time again, ballers, for the Big Balls Call of the Week. Manny, who's your Big Balls Call of the Week? Or what is your Big
All
Balls
right.
Call of the Week?
So I think that my boy this week is finally going to let his cojones drop. And it's going to be my boy DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears is finally going to get his balls. And they're going to finally fill up here in Chicago, because they have been trying to get this guy involved in the offense. It has been an absolute abomination up there. I mean, if you saw him last week in the Chiefs, they finally got him a touchdown. It was ugly. It was on a slant. But all throughout that game, they were getting blown out, and they kept trying to give him a deep bomb. And the Chiefs were just like denying him the whole time. So I think that the Bears are going to try to get him involved early. They've probably been working on getting him the design in place for him to get it, because he is dynamic with the ball in his hands. And you're finally going to see that breakout game, because he is facing the same exact Denver Broncos secondary that just got torched for 70 freaking points. And I know it was on the ground, but if you look at DJ Moore's skill set, he's more of a underneath guy, right? Like yards after the catch. So they're gonna probably design more plays underneath to try to get him, more wide receiver screens, maybe some underneath, reverses or something like that, right? And their secondary isn't. I mean, Pat Surtain is gonna be guarding him, but he's a great secondary guy. But I think that he might get beat deep once or twice. So you could probably see that big game that he finally has. We've been expecting from him, being that number one receiver in Chicago.
I love that call, and I'm going to piggyback off that. I think Roschon Johnson is going to have over 100 total yards against the high school football team, the Denver Broncos. And for a lot of the same reasons that you just mentioned, we saw him get torched last week. I feel like this is going to be a game where Justin Fields actually plays like we saw at the end of last season. I mean, if he doesn't do well this week, I have him in a couple leagues. If he doesn't do well this week, I'm gonna have to find a new quarterback. And I was really high on him. I think this is a game where he could, get it together. He's gonna have some good passes to DJ Moore. Gonna have some little dump passes to Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert have been basically 50-50. At the beginning, it was a little more Khalil Herbert, but, the last couple games, Roschon Johnson's been, getting the bulk of the work just by a little bit, but they're almost 50-50. So I'm really high on Roschon Johnson just throughout the rest of the year. I think he is going to probably take over the majority of that workload by the end of the season. And I think this could be a game where he really shines against a really poor defense.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Bears finally get their offense clicking, man. They've been an absolute embarrassment lately. So,
yes,
definitely can be a good one. But definitely a good show, Joe. This is, what is this, episode 5, episode 6 for us here?
I think it's 5.
Episode 5. Yeah, we've been rolling here, guys. We do appreciate all the support, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have been sticking with us. We've been getting more viewership. We've been getting, on the TikTok, IG and YouTube especially. We appreciate all the follows, guys. Please continue to do so. Please continue to share. we do have a live, we do have a episode coming up, airing every Thursday for you here on the Fantasy Fumble. We have player profiles coming every single day for you here as well. And Joe, when do we do our Stardom Screwums again?
Sunday morning. Well, Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock, 12 to 1 ish. We're gonna
12 to
have
1, yeah, sure, 12.
Yeah, we're gonna have our
12 to
Stardom
12-ish.
Screw 12, 12,
Stardom
15.
Screwums. 12-ish, 12-ish.
Tune in around 12-ish.
Yeah.
We'll take care of you.
Yeah.
We'll answer your questions. And Randy, just ask Manny next time. I'm gonna sit this one out.
Nah. We appreciate it, guys. Joe made some good calls too. We work together on this, guys. We work real hard. Both of us put many hours into this. Joe's over there editing all night. We do appreciate all this, guys.
We're a good two-man team, guys. We put in a lot of work. Manny's busting his ass. I'm busting my ass. We make it, we make it fun. We bring it all together. It's what we love to do, and we love the support, man. It's much appreciated from both of us.
Yes, it is. So we'll see you folks here at same time, same place. All right, big ballers. You all have a great night. Thank you all for supporting us, and take care, everybody. All right.
See you guys soon.
See you later.